edit the video. We'll see.
You're fine.
All right. Welcome back to Making It Grain. And today on the show, I have my friend, Jess Campbell. I had to look down at my notes so I didn't call you by your maiden name. How's it going, Jess?
Oh, just living the dream pretty much. What about you?
Keeping it rural. I like your shirt.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, Jess, I don't know if you've given yourself an official title, but do you mind just telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and your family and what you guys have going on at Carroll Creek Farms?
Sure. My husband, Adam, and I, as well as our two sons, Rhett and Lane, started the farm behind us from scratch. We bought the land in 2013, and it was really not a very good grain farm because it was really broken up. And we both had a livestock background, so we decided to start into the livestock business. We live in Warren County, so we're right between Cincinnati and Dayton. As a result of that, we felt that we needed to be more part of the community ecosystem because we have a lot of development pressure. So when we started up, we decided to do a more community-based farm where we sell direct to consumers and we let them onto our farm all the time. So we raise grass-fed beef and lamb, and then pastured pork and poultry, as well as eggs. And we do Thanksgiving turkeys as well once a year.
So would you consider what you do like agro-tourism? Do you guys actually do tours and stuff like that? Or is it just they come on the farm to actually make purchases?
I would say that it's agritourism. A lot of our selling points are that people can pull down our driveway and buy meat at our on-farm store and see how the animals are actually raised. So we will give them little mini tours while we're here. I think our next goal is to continue that agricultural education mission, because I think a lot of people are really questing to know where their food's coming from and understand that process. So as we continue to get our farm more cleaned up and more ready for that, and more infrastructure built out, that would be our next goal, is to kind of expand upon it. Right now we have a petting zoo with 4 goats up front and a few chickens. So, and then we'll walk them around the farm. It's not very formal. So.
Gotcha. Are these the goats that go in your house?
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually are getting all of our screen doors restrung because the one goat, Chester, has run into our house so many times and broken all of them. So.
Well, I remember when you bought that farm, and it has changed so much, and it's been really fun to like watch this grow and develop from, you know, what was kind of just a side hobby for you guys is really turning into a business. And I think that's awesome. I think the way you are raising your animals resonates with a lot of, you know, what consumers are looking for today. And in the last episode of Making It Grain, I was kind of talking about, like, you know, we do things a certain way because that's what our resources, you know, time, money, knowledge, all of that have afforded us. But we've been trying to figure out what our next step would be, or how we could maybe change things up to make them better. And we've been actually considering putting some hogs in our woods, but we have no idea what we're doing. Can you tell us what all goes into, like, do you call them woodland or woodlot pigs?
Woodlot pork generally.
Pork, okay.
I'd say if you have a woods, smoke them if you got them. Fill that thing up with hogs. But, we have about 10 acres fenced in. We farrow up here in a barn, and then once we call them kind of coyote proof, or about 30 pounds, we put them back in the woods, and they run around for the next 6 to 8 months, depending on the weather and the feed patterns. Not a lot of people, when you talk to the small farmers, tend to do pork because, one, there's a much different smell that comes with that if it's right around your house. And then 2, it's just harder to work them into some of the natural farm systems because they have that tendency to root. Mm-hmm. But for us, there's a lot of honeysuckle in that woods that we fence them into. They're actually kind of taking out an invasive species. So we're trying to find a way for them to work more with the natural ecosystem.
I gotcha. So you have the whole area fenced in, and then, you know, so when they're out there, how are they surviving? Mm-hmm. Like, what are they eating? Do you have like fresh water for them? You know, what does that all look like?
2 creeks through that wood, so we don't bring them water unless it's really dry out. Feed they forage a lot, and pigs are very smart like us, so they kind of have natural entertainment because they get to act like pigs, you know. But we also supplement them with a commercial feed from a local co-op in a like outdoor style feeder, just to make sure that they're getting everything that they need, and also to get them to grow a little faster, because it could take a long time to get them to finish weight on just grass. The other people, so they really can't thrive on that either.
Gotcha. So do you know like roughly how much space you would need in a woods for them to be pretty self-sufficient with some supplementation?
We have 10 acres and we have somewhere around 50 hogs in there. So what's the math work out to be? 2? Yeah. 2 or 20. One of those. So.
But so if you have an acre though, you could probably, you know.
You could have a handful of hogs. So that we get a lot of people that are kind of like stepping into homesteading, coming out here to buy from us or asking questions. And we normally tell them, I mean, like the 4-Hers, for example, can have 1 or 2 pigs in a relatively small area. If you're just trying to feed your family, you don't need a lot. If you're trying to make it a business, you would need some more land base. So.
Yep. Okay. So that makes sense. What about like health wise? How do you check on them and make sure they're doing okay?
Well, it's kind of different because they're not in a barn and you can't go to a pen and find them and treat them easily. That's part of why we feed them up in the one area. We have it kind of in a little square outlot so that if we need to treat somebody or let's say load them out of the woods to go to market, what we do is we put in the feed, we hold them off feed for a day, then put in feed so they all run in there and then slide a gate behind them into the little area.
Gotcha.
So we learned that after chasing a lot of hogs through the woods for a lot of years.
Now, I know you said without supplementation, it would take forever for them to make market weight. Roughly with what you guys are doing, how long does it take from 30 pounds to finish?
The commercial guys can finish hogs in about 6 months. We're finishing them somewhere in 9 months or maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
So. We also do Berkshires and Durocs, which are more of a heritage breed. So if you're doing those white hogs, you might get a little faster growth out of them.
Sure. Taking notes. Okay, so let's move on. The next thing that we've been talking about is getting some chickens because our family eats like a dozen eggs a day.
Yep.
But you know, I don't know. I feel like they would poop everywhere. And I just don't. And also that we would maybe like my dog and we have a lot of coyotes and stuff around would be an issue. So if someone were to want to get started with like laying hens, what would you suggest?
We actually have a little show chicken area up at front with our show goats for agritourism because we get asked that question so often. We kind of set up the ideal backyard situation up front. Usually we recommend between 6 to 12 hens together to get a good start. Most of the hatcheries are going to make you order about 6 anyway. Make sure you get the ones that are all pullets so you don't have a bunch of roosters. That's not going to help you with your eggs. But the biggest thing is having a coop that you can fully secure at night. Like the one we have has a full man door on one side and then like a ramp so they can walk down on the other, and we close that up at night. And then during the day, to protect them from dogs and other predators, we have that really tight woven wire that we built stretched fence around. So we gave them an area to freely roam, but they're protected from at least predators on foot. We also had a raised coop so they can go underneath that for protection for aerial predators like hawks. So
Gotcha.
really the key things are contain where they poop, keep them away from your dog and other dogs, and give them somewhere to hide out from owls or hawks.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And so if you're getting pullets, how long does it take before they would start laying?
6 months-ish. It's longer than most people think. So you can buy started pullets from certain places as well, or local farms. So if you're looking for eggs right away and you don't want to learn how to raise chicks from scratch, that's another option too.
Yeah, which is kind of the road I was thinking about going down.
More
Okay.
immediate,
What's that?
more immediate eggs.
Yes, more
So,
immediate eggs because we have immediately hungry kids. So, let's talk about your grass-fed beef. I know the other day, with coronavirus and everything, basically the whole environment changing, especially if you're direct to consumer, you guys have really seen an influx of customers showing up at the meat retreat and asking you guys for things. I saw your post on Instagram the other day where you talked about grass-fed beef takes longer.
mhm.
Can you give me some more information about that?
Yeah. The local foods movement definitely has seen a surge. I think if you're trying to find positives out of coronavirus, a lot of people are trying to support local and really are empathetic to the small businesses. I think also, since we had food shortages that we've never had in our life before, they want to see and know and understand where that's coming from and have it be somewhere they can easily drive and get to, not coming from a semi 5 states away or what have you. As far as raising grass-fed beef, what we do is a couple different things. We'll buy some feeder calves right off the mom, wean calves, and those you just pretty much start them and then get them in like-sized groups and do rotational grazing. We also take Jersey bottle calves, which we would get as day olds or a few days old, and then do the bottle feeding of them until they were older enough to get weaned off of that. For those processes is 3 years plus. Those jerseys, sometimes it's longer than 3 years. You could be pushing 3.5 to get them to a carcass size in which they've got finish on them. When you're feeding corn, you get a lot of fat in the muscle quickly. When you're doing it with grass, you have to fully develop that animal off of it. It just takes it slower and slower.
Mm-hmm. So, a similar question to what I had with the hogs, but do you know roughly how much grass you need? Like, not to sound like
One
I
cow per 1 acre is
one per
pretty much
acre.
the rule in Ohio anyway with our grass types.
Now, say you have 1 acre, will one do all right by itself? Or I know like when we were in 4-H, we always like tried to have a couple because they seem to encourage each other to like eat faster.
Yes. Normally you want two at least. If you only have 1 acre, what we usually recommend is supplementing with hay if you can. And it only becomes a pressure point when your grasses become lower and your calves are heavier. So when the calves are 300, 400 pounds, it's not an issue. But say they're both 1,200 pounds, you might need to supplement with hay.
Gotcha. And then did you guys actually seed your pastures or are they just like on
We
whatever
pulled
you had out there?
we pulled them out of production agriculture, so more like corn beans, moved it into a wheat crop, had them graze off the wheat, and then underseeded. And then every year we broadcast on a frost seed to keep the pasture quality up and then spread manure on top of that.
Okay. So when you're adding seed, you're adding just alfalfa or are you adding grass?
Usually we never add clover because we have a pretty heavy abundance of white clover where we're at. But yeah, we'll throw in some alfalfa because that's usually the first thing to fall out of your pasture, and then some quick season grasses. So.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So then the last thing is being a sheep person myself. I've always been very interested with your sheep herd because it is not what you would expect from,
Most
like a,
people think they're goats.
yes. Well, because I mean, how long did I raise sheep? I didn't even know that you could have sheep with hair. I just assumed if it had hair, it was a goat.
And they kind of look like them too. So
Yeah.
yep.
So how did you come across this breed?
Actually, it was the Amish. A lot of the Amish were raising them because they were easier to care for and not quite as finicky as some of the wool breeds. You flay them to before you know how that goes. That takes a lot of attention and management and 2 full-time employees. So wool wasn't something we were going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So we were focused on the meat. So how do we meet all those needs? The other thing that the hair sheep are really good for is holding the parasite load a lot better. So they're more resistant to some of those bugs that can be in the grass and really flush out pretty well just on grass. So We mostly, what else do you want to know?
No, you're good. Sorry. Your audio is breaking up a little bit. So sometimes it would take just a second for it to catch up with.
You're good.
Yeah. So I probably just look like I'm staring at you. So what is the actual name of the breed you have?
We actually have a handful of breeds. We have Katahdins. We have some St. Croix, Barbados black bellies, and American black bellies. And then we cross them all on a Dorper ram. So we have a maternal ram and then a terminal ram, the Dorper.
Gotcha. Okay. So if someone is interested in learning more about what you guys are doing, where would you like them to go to follow along, or maybe, visit the meat retreat?
Well, if you want to come to the Meat Shack, it is at Waynesville, Ohio. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and have a website. Hopefully we post a couple times a week to tell our story out here, and then occasionally I blog, but not very regularly. That's one of my goals, is to get better at that. So if you want to learn more about our story, either come out here and we're happy to show you around, or follow us on social.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And, if I can talk Ben into any of this, I might be calling for a little bit more help, but I at least have a pretty good start and understanding of what it would take.
We could just drop off a few hogs and then he'd be committed, no problem there.
I'd be fine with that, except for I feel like I might need his help for putting up a fence. The neighbors might not like the feral hog look. All right. Thanks so much, Jess.
See ya.
Bye.